Why was the Naboo Treaty so important for Darth Sidious? It might seem like just a trade dispute, but for Sidious, it was a clever move to exploit the Republic's weaknesses, manipulate key figures, and set the stage for his rise to power. As Senator Palpatine, Sidious secretly pressures the Trade Federation into blockading Naboo. This blockade creates a crisis, making the occupation of Naboo seem legal under the treaty. It forces Queen Amidala into a difficult decision: sign the treaty and let her planet be taken over, or refuse and watch her people suffer under the blockade. But for Sidious, this crisis is more than just a power grab over Naboo. It's about exposing the Senate's weaknesses. By creating a problem the Senate can't solve quickly, he highlights Chancellor Valorum's lack of leadership and makes the Republic's leaders look ineffective. This feeds the growing belief that the Senate is too slow and weak to act, setting Sidious up as a stronger leader. The Naboo Treaty is a trap, designed to create chaos and leave the Senate desperate for new leadership. When Queen Amidala refuses to sign the treaty and brings her grievances to the Senate, she plays right into Sidious's hands, even more effectively than if she had signed. Her appeal leads to a vote of no confidence in Chancellor Valorum, which is exactly what Sidious needs. Acting as the concerned senator from Naboo, Sidious presents himself as someone who wants to fix the Republic's problems. This reformer image helps him replace Valorum as Chancellor. Through this crisis, Sidious positions himself for power. Once in charge, he can use his role as Chancellor to eventually make himself Emperor. The Naboo Treaty also exposes how much control corporations, like the Trade Federation, have over the Republic. Sidious is testing the limits. How far can he push corporate power before it causes a backlash? The Republic's reluctance to confront the Trade Federation shows Sidious that he can use these corporate interests to help him achieve his goals. This insight is key for Sidious. Later, he'll use corporate-funded armies, like those of the Confederacy of Independent Systems, to split the galaxy and start the Clone Wars. In many ways, the Naboo Treaty is Sidious's experiment to see just how much he can use corporate power to weaken the Republic and divide the galaxy. By pushing the Republic to confront an aggressive corporation like the Trade Federation, Sidious sets the stage for the Clone Wars. If Queen Amidala had signed the treaty, it would have shown that corporations like the Trade Federation could legally take over entire planets, giving them even more power over governments. But when Amidala refuses to sign and the Republic fails to respond forcefully, it creates growing distrust between the Senate and independent systems. This tension later leads to a major secession movement, which Sidious takes advantage of by forming the Confederacy of Independent Systems. This sets the stage for war, giving Sidious the perfect excuse to build an army and claim emergency powers. In this way, the Naboo Treaty is crucial to Sidious's plan to create a galactic conflict, one that will allow him to take control of the Republic and eventually break it down from within. The Naboo crisis also shows Sidious how he can manipulate the Jedi. Jedi like Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi get involved in the political conflict, even though they're supposed to be neutral. This makes them appear less like peacekeepers and more like tools of the Republic. This is critical for Sidious. Later, he uses this to turn public opinion against the Jedi. By the time the Clone Wars start, the Jedi are seen less as guardians of peace and more as military leaders, making it easier for Sidious to sway the public against them when the time comes. Thanks to Amidala, Sidious removes Valorum from power and sets the stage for his own rise. Amidala's bold stance makes Sidious appear as the voice of change and reform. But in reality, that change is just a cover for Sidious's true goal: to establish an authoritarian regime, disguised as a necessary shift from the failed systems of the past. The Naboo Treaty might seem insignificant, but it's actually a critical part of Darth Sidious's long-term plan to weaken and eventually replace the Republic. Through the Naboo crisis, Sidious exposes flaws in the Senate, sets the stage for his rise to power, and triggers the events that lead to the Clone Wars. The treaty itself wasn't just a tool against Naboo, it was a tool against the Republic as a whole. It shows how the failure of democracy can be exploited by Sidious to create the Empire and fulfill the Sith's goal of galactic control.